Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 11th episode of the Baseball FM podcast. As always, I have your host, Frank, joined by my co host, Max. And, I just can't wait to be a seller at the deadline, baby. Let's do this thing. Let's blow this whole thing up. I want this to be the Death Star 1 and the Death Star 2 put together. Just fucking shrapnel everywhere. You know? I don't. However many explosives that George Lucas put in that miniature to get that effect in the original Star Wars, double it, and that's what I want them to do to Craig Breslow's office right now. Yeah, it's been a rough one. Just finished getting completely annihilated by the Atlanta Braves, watching our former ace absolutely dissect our lineup, our puny, measly lineup. Yeah, I don't really know what to say at this point, other than they are who we thought they were. But Max, things are going well for you. Um, I gather congratulations is in order for Christopher Sanchez and his monumental feat, his still ongoing scoreless stretch that has eclipsed the 1911 rookie year by a 24-year-old two-time U.S. President Grover Cleveland Alexander. And yeah, I I can't imagine that the vibes are as low as they are for me in Philadelphia right now.
Well, the vibes are great. I mean, the Phillies. Last time we spoke, they didn't have a good home series. They had a home series against Cincinnati where Chase Burns obliterated us. He's really good. He is honestly a dark horse for a Cy Young at this point. I think he's really good. Um, and obviously Cleveland, who as we know is doing pretty good, lost the series to them. However, we did sweep San Diego so bad that San Diego is now in third place. They're on a four-game losing streak right now. So that series looked fantastic. Painter is looking better. Um, I still don't like Aaron Nola. I mean, he still has like a 5.75 ERA. It's not looking great. But our bullpen's looking pretty good, and the offense is
Just
looking
picking
good.
nits right now, aren't you? Huh?
Hmm?
Just picking nits right now. You're just looking for things to complain about. That's what it sounds
Uh,
like to me.
well, I'm being fair and objective about my team. I will say this for the Red Sox. I think IKF is looking really good. Um, he's looking pretty fun to watch. Peyton Tolley is fun to watch. Connorly early. I always tongue twist that
Connolly.
name. Connolly early.
Yeah.
I always say Connolly early for some reason. I don't know what it is. It's just a fucking slip of the tongue. But no, early is great. Um, that's all I can think of right now for the Red Sox.
Listen, the starters are not the problem right now.
You want to talk about Greg?
Well, I think it's only fair that we give a quick wrap up think where things stand right now after today's nail biter against the Atlanta Braves. The Red Sox are currently 9 games under 500, 12 back of the division, and a whopping 3.5 back of the wild card, which isn't a great indictment of the American League. But that being said, we're, we're not going to get there anyway, so I just do not care.
I
Um,
think the people want to hear why you don't care.
well, we'll hear in a second.
Oh,
Phillies at the moment 2 games above 500. Who would have thought at the end of last month, huh? Who would
I
have
still have faith. I
who
still
would
have
have
faith.
thought 29 and 27, 8.5 back of the Braves, comfortably in a one back of the wild card position in the National League. And it is interesting because I would say the vibes are extremely high for you guys. 2 games above 500, and that doesn't even get you a wild card position. Red Sox are 9 games under 500, and they're 3.5 back of their wild card, which I think goes to show you the gap in quality this year between the two leagues. But I digress. Just a quick housekeeping before we really go into the in-depth suckage, the all-encompassing suck that is the Boston Red Sox. Let's take a moment to highlight the hitter and pitcher of the week. I'm going back to the, I believe, May 19th is when I started this. Um, Cedar Rafaela was my nomination for hitter of the week. 290, 333 OBP, 817 OPS, one homer, 4 RBI, one stolen base, doing pretty well in the last 7 games. Christopher Sanchez is obviously my nomination for pitcher of the week. 15 innings of 10 hit, 15 strikeout, 2 walk, no earned run, ball. A lovely 0 ERA across the board, as it has been for over 40 innings at this point for the Sanchez. So, yeah. Um, Before we get into the mock trades that I have for the Red Sox, who will be selling at the deadline if they have even two brain cells to rub together, which I'm not so sure they do at this point. I just want to sort of address the elephant in the room, which is to say that Greg Weissert is, some people talk about what it means to have hatred in their heart, right? You talk about Salieri with Mozart, right? You talk about John Wilkes Booth and Abraham Lincoln. They talk about, you know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and poverty. These
Bobby
are
Kennedy
these are
Johnson.
these are some historical battlegrounds here. Any standing army versus the Russian winter. These are true battles that stand the test of time. True hatred, I would say, in one's heart. And this is the hatred I carry for this entire roster. There is not a single person on this entire team that I think will be around for our next World Series team. And, it breaks my heart to have to say these things about Garrett Crochet, about Peyton Tolley, about Wilson Contreras, Cedar Rafaela, Willie Abreu, players that I actually do think deserve some level of respect and admiration. Um, but listen, this is a black hole of suckage. This is a black hole of just absolute baloney. Baloney, Max. I'm using words like baloney. That's how at a loss for words I am with these guys. This is an affront to everything the Red Sox have ever been in their history. I truly think you put the 1918 Red Sox lineup in the box right now, and they would tee off on 90% of this bullpen. I truly believe that if you gave, we are truly the coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb of the MLB right now. We just fucking Conley early just went in there and laid down the fucking hammer on the Atlanta Braves offense. Honestly, that was the game of the year yesterday. And I said, you know what? I said to myself, Max, in that voice that I always say things to myself in, when I know that I'm lying to myself, but I somehow delude myself into having hope. I said to myself, maybe this is the start of something. Maybe now is when some semblance of a mediocre team will emerge. I'm talking about like a 75 win team here, Max. What do they do? What do they do? Peyton Tolley grinds his way through 4 and 2/3. Looks fine enough. Honestly, it's the best lineup in baseball. I hold no grudge towards his performance. What do we do immediately after that, Max? What do we do immediately after that? What was that? Hold on. Uh huh. Oh, I see. Oh, Max, I'm getting this in. Just in news that FBI most wanted Greg Weissert gave up a grand slam to Ronald Acuna Jr. Mr. Hospital himself Max, I was watching the game when I got home from work. I don't think the Nesson cameraman knew where that ball went. I'm pretty sure it cleared everything, but I could be wrong. But at the end of the day, I know what else is being cleared. You know what that is, Max? Greg Weisser is clearing waivers when we DFA his ass after today. I mean, I need this guy to go on a manned mission to Mars at this point. I need to just him volunteer himself for a tour of the cosmos. Just get this man out of my face. I cannot look at this Uncle Festus looking ass anymore. I'm so sickened by this team, Max, that I just don't feel the energy anymore. I just don't know where to go with myself at this point. I don't think there's anything I can do really. Um, you got swept by the Twins. You know, I remember last Thursday. I was in a very conflicted place because we had just swept the Royals, and I was saying to myself, is like, I know this team should be admonished for what for the display that they've put on this year, but maybe now's not the time. You know, maybe this is a better team. Jaron Duran starting to look like himself. Max, we got slapped around by a team that is actively trying to make themselves worse. What does that say about our ability to make ourselves better? Nothing good. Nothing good. So we've lost 5 of our last 6 now. Um, I'm all aboard the selling train. I don't think any right-thinking person is anywhere near buying for this team. Which probably means that we're going to try to because there's not a single right-thinking person in the front office right now. If I were John Henry, I'd be banging down Derek Falvey's door and saying to him, "I will pay you any amount of money to be our president of baseball operations." Because this jackass clearly does not know what he's doing. Let alone that the centerpiece of the Rafael Devers trade is now looking like an absolute fucking stud for the Milwaukee Brewers. Not even a half of a season after we traded for him, we attached one of our top 10 prospects in a trade to dump Jordan Hicks onto the White Sox. David Sandlin, yesterday, gave a leadoff homer to Byron Buxton and then was perfect for 6 innings in his MLB debut. Apparently, Roman Anthony went on the news yesterday and said, "Hey, actually, you know what? My hand is all sorts of fucked up," which is just the complete opposite of what the front office has been saying this entire time. Tristan Casas, I'm pretty sure, is meditating with Wemby and a bunch of Shaolin monks in China trying to restore his chakra points. I don't even know if we're gonna ever see him again on this mortal coil, let alone for the Boston Red Sox. IKF is our best hitter right now, Max. That's what's turning me into the Joker right now. This is what's baffling me is I didn't think I would ever get to the point this season where I'd say, you know what, IKF, fair play. You've been better than this entire lineup. I don't think I'd ever get to this point, Max. I just want to get off the ride. I don't like this anymore, Max. Yeah, take the floor. I'm gonna take a nap now.
Well, I can't relate because the Phillies just swept the bum ass Slam Diego Padres, whose announcer used to be a former Red Sox, Don Arcella. He had to watch the absolute masterpiece that was Christopher Sanchez. He saw the absolute masterpiece that was this Phillies bullpen. Jose Ozempic Alvarado is looking like his 22 self. You got Tanner Banks, who's shockingly not too bad. Bowen is looking decent. Our bullpen is looking great. Our defense is looking great. Bryce Harper is a top 10 first baseman in the league right now, and he's not even on my bench anymore in fantasy. He's been cooking. He's been cooking. Shout out my boy Christopher Sanchez. If he is not the NL pitcher of the month this month, they give it to somebody else. Rob Manfred, we're going to have a problem. MLB, we're going to have a problem. The man has a goose egg for an ERA. The man passed a former president, an extinguished president, Grover Cleveland, Mr. Alexander. Um, Something that hasn't been done since the 1800s, like before World War One, before everything went, haywire. So that's pretty decent. And I was happy about that. Let's keep up this energy because LA is going to be rough. That's going to be a tough series to win. I hope and pray that Dalton Rushing starts something and charges the mound because boy, I will run to Los Angeles, and I'll give him the little AA like a John Cena type move. I'm going to give him an RKO if he does that. But anyways, I can't relate because we are doing good so far. I'm not going to say we're back 100%. I'm not there yet. I will say this: it's looking really good. We have our confidence back. We have our stride back. Everything is clicking. I think. Trey Turner, honestly, has been looking really good so far. He hit 2 home runs in that San Diego series. He's seeing the ball super well. Looks like the power is coming back. His defense is still elite. So I'm very happy about that. Now, I can't really relate because, I mean, I don't know. Do I want to kick a dog when he's down? I don't know. What do you want? Do you want me to talk trash about the Sox or do you want me to talk about the Phillies? What do you want me to do? I can
Do what
go
you
either
want,
way.
Max. Do what you want.
All right. Well, the Red Sox fucking suck. Um,
See, you think when you say these things you hurt me, but you're really just stating facts that I have no way of disputing.
well, I mean, I mean, good for IKF, all right. He's not a horrible player by any means. So let's not disrespect IKF. He's having a good hot streak. I don't get how you can disrespect a player on your team who's looking pretty decent. I don't get how you can
I
disrespect Tristan Casas, who's going through hell in his rehab right now.
I'm not
I don't get
disrespecting him.
how
I'm
you
just
can.
saying
I
I
don't
don't
get
know
how
those
you can make
guys.
fun of Roman Anthony's hand.
Max,
Something that
Max,
is
I'm
well
not
without.
Max.
No,
I
no,
am
no.
not making fun
Frank,
of any of
Frank,
these
Frank,
things. I'm
Frank. You
merely pointing
talked.
out
You
the
talked. Frank.
absurdity of. Hmm,
You talked 20 minutes uninterrupted. Did I interrupt? Did I interrupt you once?
yes.
No, I did not, and that's what I fucking thought. Anyways, yeah, I don't think I would ever make fun of a player being injured like you did with Roman Anthony. I thought this man was your savior. Now he's, I guess, your black sheep. So that's a shame. That's kind of sad. Um, yeah, I mean, it's still fun to go to Fenway. That's fun. The beer prices are too high there. I don't know why. We'll never know.
We know why, Max.
Yeah, as soon as Greg Weiser is in this game, I immediately it's like an automatic L. You know who Greg Weiser is for you in the bullpen? He's like what Taiwan Walker was for the Phillies. As soon as he just is on the mound, I'm like, it's a guaranteed loss. I'm gonna watch a different game. Oh, AEW's on Wednesday night. I'm gonna watch
Can,
MJF doing
can I just
wrestling.
remind you, by the way, that the score was 3-2 Atlanta, and Chad Tracy, in its infinite wisdom, said, "You know who I want with the bases loaded and no outs? The pitching machine himself, Greg Weissert."
Is he worse than what was his name, Ryan Brazier? Because
Oh,
Brazier kind of had
easily,
this,
easily. Brazier got us a
but
ring.
Brazier was like this a
Brazier
few
was
years
great in
ago.
2018. I would
Yeah, but
kill for
Brazier was like
2018
this by
Brazier.
the tail end of his Red Sox career, though. He was blowing games like Weiser.
Yeah, well, guess what? I didn't care then, and Weissert will never be on a team that wins a ring. That's the difference here. The very worst 2018 player would be like the fifth best player on this team, genuinely. Like that's what we're talking about right now, Max.
Yeah.
Like this 2018 team and this year's Red Sox, they are genuinely playing two different sports, right? The 2021 Red Sox would kick this team up and down the court, right?
I think same with the 22-23. I think Corey Kluber, 2023 opening day starter, could, draw a perfect game.
Well, we're
Um,
not we're not. Sorry, hold on.
I think for those who are watching, I think Frankie got too upset that he's now walking away.
Nope,
Very
sorry.
disrespectful. Very
Um,
disrespectful.
we're not talking about like the rotation here. Rotation has been great. This is genuinely one of the best Red Sox rotations that I've seen in my lifetime, which is why it's so infuriating that even mediocrity from everywhere else would mean this team is really good.
Your bullpen is looking like the 2024 Phillies bullpen in the
Outside of
NLDS.
Whitlock and Chapman, I don't know if there's a single person that I trust to pitch a single postseason inning out of this bullpen.
Need to bring back Bernardino.
He would have been a great opener for Bayo at this point, at the very least, and not Giovanni Moran, who turns into Greg Weissert whenever he's the
Bring
opener.
back Matt Barnes.
Yeah, why not? He's been an all-star.
Bring back I don't know, bring back Kenley Jansen. Actually, no, he's not doing so hot for the Tigers. So, though he could be one of the better Red Sox
Well, the thing
relievers at
is
this
that would never
point.
happen though, because he'd want to close games. There's no way that I'm letting him close over Chapman at this point.
Well, I'm just saying, I think Kenley Jansen is probably going to be a better
But
reliever, even
uh,
how
but
bad the Tigers are doing with this. I don't know. I think I don't know. Maybe call up some AAA guys. At this point, call up guys like, hey, Portland, do
well,
you
look at
want to
Nick
take the I
Soger. Look at
95
Mickey
down here? Let's
Gasper.
go.
Look at Nick Soger and Mickey Gasper. They're genuinely making a laughing stock of this entire lineup. And these guys
Yeah.
were AAA depth before this year. You know who I want them to
Hmm.
call up is Nathan Hickey, who's been
Yeah.
doing really well for Worcester this
That's an
year.
unfortunate last name.
Yeah, it is an unfortunate last name, but listen, it can't get any worse. Once we trade Wilson Contreras, hopefully, not that I want it, but it's inevitable. Hopefully, then
So
he should be our
what?
everyday first baseman.
So as a Red Sox fan, you kind of know what my expectations are as a Phillies fan. Besides them selling, what are your expectations this year? I know you're a 162 for life, or same as me with the Phillies. But what are your expectations like watching a game now? Do you like actually enjoy it, or is it a chore?
It's definitely a chore for 99% of the time. I think
Okay.
there are moments in the game where you say that's encouraging or I like that. Sadon made
Mhm.
an excellent play in the outfield today. He tacked on a nice RBI hit today as well. I think guys like Sadon, Jaron Duran's looking better.
Yeah.
Hopefully he fetches a nice price at the deadline. I like seeing Willier Abreu swinging the bat well.
So
Peyton
who do you
Toley looks
want? So who do
solid.
you not want gone? That's going to be a seller. Like that's
Who do I
clear.
not
Who
want
who do you
gone?
who do you not want gone that you think that the Sox are going to trade at the deadline? Like I'm not talking about
Like do
Contreras
I
or like
think I
like
think they're
Chapman,
going to trade him.
but
I
if they
don't want
traded
them
a
to.
certain player, you'd be like, you traded that guy? What the fuck? We wanted him.
Um, I mean, I think anybody under the age of 26 on this team, I think that
Yeah,
would those are the only guys that I'm like genuinely these guys are off limits.
yeah. I
All
think it'd be
ev,
kind of
ev
funny if they traded Roman Anthony. They're not going to do that now. They might in a few
No,
years,
of
but
course not. Like I think here's my list of non-negotiables, right, Max?
okay. Yeah,
Sadon, Willier, Roman, Marcelo, Crochet, Early, Tolley. I think that's it.
yeah,
I think those are generally the only guys that like other teams would actually want that I consider untouchable.
yeah. Well, hey, I will say this, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've disrespected, and I think we've talked about the Red Sox a lot. Frank, what are your thoughts on the Phillies so far? I gave you my little in depth. You did your little rant. I kind of want to hear a similar thing with the Phillies.
Yeah. I do have some thoughts on the Phillies actually. Um, I think this is sort of the blueprint, right? This is like what you want this team to look like when it's all said and done. Do I think
Hmm.
you guys still need to find a way to buy at the deadline to shore up the pieces a little bit? Absolutely. I think you could absolutely do with another sort of bona fide starter in your rotation. I think that's possible. I'm not talking about like a premium talent here, right? I'm
Hmm.
not talking about like a Ranger Suarez or something like that, right? But like,
Why did you say his name?
well, that's the first person I thought of.
Why did you say his name?
So
Why are you bringing back someone who should have been a Philly for life? He has been a Philly since 16, and you bring him back into this. How dare you? My day is ruined now. Thank you.
no, I think if I was
You are not treating Ranger well. Bring him back to
I
us.
was
He
the
knows how to win.
Phillies, there are you know sorry, there's a few teams that I'd be looking at right now. I know Forrest Griffin, no, Foster Griffin
Hmm.
of the Nationals. I think that might be a solid choice. I don't
Yeah,
think he's on.
Foster.
Yeah, I don't think he's on too long of a contract with the Nationals at this point. Um, I look at a team like the Giants. I think there's a few guys that you could maybe pick off there. Maybe a Tyler Molly or like a Robbie Ray or something like that. Maybe you could get one of those guys if they're inclined to sell. Point being that there's options out there for you guys just to add like sort of back end of the rotation guy. Maybe someone if you're lucky that could pitch the third game of the playoff series. The third day
Yeah, I think.
behind Wheeler and
No, I
Sanchez.
agree with you. I think especially our bullpen's looking good. I think it'd be great if we got like one or two relievers
Yep.
um, to get the deadline. I think hitting wise, it's not bad. Maybe another backup catcher if because Ramirez getting a little older. We only have Rafael Marchand. Obviously, even over the Red Sox, I think you guys have like three catchers. We
Yep.
have two. So I think definitely getting perhaps like a backup catcher would be great. But I also think too, I agree with the starter. I mean, Painter has been looking better, but he's still unproven right now. Um, Luzardo's hit or miss, but so far Luzardo has been pitching quite decent,
I don't know
especially
why I
last
just
week.
completely blanked on Lizardo. I knew I was forgetting somebody in that rotation, but yeah.
And
Um,
Nola, I just it's tough because he's done so much for Philly, but I think at this point, I mean, he's clearly not an ace
I, I,
anymore.
I, I just would
And
say
I don't, and I'm not, and dare I say, I don't think I'm hesitant to put him in the three spot. Honestly, he just doesn't have the numbers. Don't support him being in the three spot.
I look. I think Wheeler, Sanchez, Lizardo. That gives you a great floor to work with, but I just don't think Nola like Painter is fine where he is
Hmm.
right now. Like he's learning on the
I
fly.
agree.
He's shown some flashes of being a very good starter, right? But
Hmm.
Nola should be long relief at this point. There's just no doubt about it. He's going up there and he is not giving a very good accounting of himself here.
We're paying 7 years, 140 mil, or even more than that for him to be a long reliever.
Well, join
Classic
join the
Dave
club,
Dombrowski
Max.
move
There's
right
so many
there.
contracts that the Red Sox have that are awful. But I think you look up and down this lineup right now with the Phillies,
Yeah,
and Harper's finding his stride, and Bryson Stott is hitting better than expected.
Brandon
Trey
Marsh.
Trey Turner's been looking pretty solid. So is Alec Boehm. Real Muto has been, I would say, a plus offensively as far as catchers are concerned because I don't know how much you can really expect out of a catcher these days offensively.
Yeah,
Brandon Marsh and Justin Crawford and you know
Adolis Garcia. I've seen
Adolis
flashes of
Garcia
him
is
doing pretty
is you know
decent.
he's a quality down lineup kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
This is a
Well, I
lineup
knew
of
we weren't. I knew
veterans.
we weren't going to sign. 2023 Adolis Garcia. I know that
Yeah.
this is a different part of his career, but I think compared to the alternative, with what Nick Castellanos was like, paying all that money just for him to be like a at or just below a league average hitter, and he has not great defense. I have nothing personally against him. I think he's a hard worker. Um, and I think he loves the sport, obviously, but I just don't think he had a decent 4 years. He was an all-star, and he had some clutch plays in the World Series, and that I thank Nick Castellanos for that. But I think the ship sailed for him. We'll see how Adolis does the rest of the year. I think they signed him on a 1 year deal. I don't know if he'll be in Philly next year, but obviously, with Max Clark, no, yeah, Max Clark, just decided to do the Jose Alvarado route and take roids. That's not a great look. I can see why he's out. Be cool if we brought back Cody Clemens, though. That would be a good 22 reunion, but I don't think that's going to happen. But no, I like Adolis. I kind of expect him not to be like dominant, but I think if he gets you like a 20 home run, like an 80 RBI season, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of expect that kind of production from a lineup like the Phillies as well. You know,
Yeah,
I look at like a guy like Keller, Kirkering being the setup guys for Duran. I think that's a fine enough back end of your rotation. Um, Maybe trying to find another
I don't
sort
know
of
about
setup guy. Um, I think there certainly are arms out there that are for sale that I think could shore up that role pretty well. One guy that I kind of like if the Orioles continue on their track, I think like Yanier Cano could be a
hmm
really solid pickup for you guys and probably wouldn't cost a fortune. Just someone that has back end of the rotation experience, I think would be really
I
good.
just thought of a good addition to your team. I think you'll like this one. Um, It'll be a classic, typical Red Sox signing in the past couple of years. I think we are looking at right now future Red Sox bullpen, possibly starter Alec Manoah. Welcome to Boston in the future.
He'll be our ace by the 2027 season probably.
Anyways, let's hear
Speaking
these mock trades,
Yes,
man.
I was gonna say. Speaking of additions, I've cooked up two trades for four different players. I've done my research. I've sort of looked at what teams are in need of this specific position the most. What kind of makes sense ballpark in terms of what other guys have gotten towards the deadline last year, and based on age, contract, all these different kinds of things like where these teams are in terms of their competitive window and what players would suit the best. So the four players that I have as basically trade chips for the Red Sox: Wilson Contreras, Jaron Duran, Aroldis Chapman, and Sonny Gray. I think these are four guys that will command some value in the trade market. I think these are four guys that are in different parts of the sort of how they're regarded, what kind of team could use a guy like that, and just sort of what kind of offers do I perceive the Red Sox getting. So it really is these four guys, right? Jaron Duran is by far the youngest in terms of baseball in terms of these four guys, but I also think his trade is the most necessary of the four at the end
Mhm.
of the day, just from purely from a roster construction point of view. Now, I wouldn't trade Sadon, I wouldn't trade Willier, and Yoshida is probably not getting any sort of value back unless there's something attached to it. So
Mhm.
I'm going to start out with Jaron Duran here, if I may, and sort of give you three teams. Actually, I came up with three teams that I think could use his services here. Now, this is a guy who has 1.5 years of team control left.
Mhm.
Bear that in mind. He is making free agent arbitration money. So he's not making a ton of money, but nothing that's nothing to sneeze at either. So the three teams that I have looking at a Jaron Duran type guy: Cleveland Guardians, the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Tampa Bay Rays. I think these are three teams that could use a solid spark from the left field position. A guy who has good base running statistics, can field fairly well, and I think all around would probably give you good numbers by the end of the year, if not a little bit inconsistent. But I definitely could feel him being a good addition to a potent lineup, let's say. So, do you have anything to ask Max before I go down the list, or does that sort of make sense in terms of logic? What do you say?
I think so. I think it'd be really interesting to see how he does for the Brewers, considering that the Brewers are a really good team. I think out of those teams that you mentioned, I think Pat Murphy is what is the best manager out of them. Um, so I think him with Pat Murphy, I think that could calm him down a little bit. It's understandable, why obviously Duran does that, but I do think it could calm him down, especially being in that environment, especially being around because I think Duran's like the longest tenure Red Sox right now. Um, but I think being around guys, especially like Yelich, I think that's going to help his career a great deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the, oh, give me one moment here. I will start with my trade with Jaron Duran to the Cleveland Guardians. Now, this is a fairly straightforward trade, I would say. Um, it's a one for one for a. Let's just say I think this is an MLB ready type of player that he has not played above. Hmm, hold on, I'm just trying to pull up his page here. Bear with me one moment, please. There we go. So he just got called up in AAA. He is the second ranked second prospect in the Guardians organization, 42nd overall by Fangraphs. 50 value future value prospect. I'm talking about Ralphie Velasquez. So this would be a straight Jaron Duran for Ralphie Velasquez. Ralphie Velasquez is a first base prospect. He is someone who is considered to be a regular first baseman with 30 home run upside and a good approach at the plate. Now, as of right now, his season has largely consisted of hit time in Double A, where he's had an 18.3 strikeout rate and a 13.0 walk rate. He's hitting 317 on the year combined between the 6 games he's played at AAA and 36 at AA. He's hitting 317 with a 412 on base and 7 home runs, 30 RBIs, and throwing a stolen base there. Now, I think this is maybe seen as a big price to pay if you're the Guardians. I look at it as they have a guy like Cooper Engel in AAA right now, who's been sort of knocking on the door for a couple of years now. He's an MLB ready contact type profile. I think he's a great player that they just haven't been able to find the room for just yet. Um, they also have Kyle Manzardo, who's sort of being their DH first base. I think this is one of those things where it's best for everybody involved if they trade the guy that hasn't actually realized his potential yet for a guy who could be a real difference maker in their lineup at the moment. Now, they have an outfield of Daniel Schneemann, Angel Martinez, and Stephen Kwan. Now, Jaron Duran has had plenty of time at the DH position. I think he could easily rotate in and out of their lineup at the DH and left field spot, even perhaps playing some center field there if needed. And Ralphie Velasquez, I think, as a one for one for a proven MLB commodity, is not that high of a price. So, what do you say to that so far, Max?
I think that's a decent trade. I think honestly, yeah, if the Red Sox are sellers there. One of the shining moments of the Red Sox is they still have a really good farm system. Um, and so I think if they were to upgrade with that farm system, I think that would be really ideal for them.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a guy that's not maybe not quite MLB ready, but he's close. and first base is a position that we're going to be needing pretty soon, especially if I think, like most people are expecting, we deal Wilson Contreras. That's long term, I would say, the smart position to be in terms of a young, controllable, reasonably high upside kind of batter here. My second trade is with the Milwaukee Brewers. I have Jaron Duran going to the Brewers for Aaron Ashby and Andrew Fisher. Now we'll start with Aaron Ashby. He's sort of been a swingman in their bullpen. He's made a few spot starts. He is someone who mostly occupies a middle relief role, but he's also, you know, been a back end of the rotation guy as needed and done a very good job of it. He's someone that I've liked for a while now. He has a 12.6 K per nine this year, only a .26 home run per nine, sitting at a solid 2.06 ERA and 35 innings thus far. Now, he's had some trouble with injuries, which is I think a little bit of an issue, but he's 28 years old right now, just turned 28. I think he's a very solid sort of sort of a guy that could be with us for a couple of years at least, being a very solid member of our bullpen. He has team options for 28 and 29. He is arbitration eligible for the first time next year, and yeah, he's a guy that I've liked a lot, and I think would be a very good addition to our team. And I don't think the Brewers would really miss him that much, considering their dearth of pitching talent. Right, Andrew Fisher. He is the organization's eighth ranked prospect, 45 plus future value player. Someone who was drafted last year 20th overall by the Brewers. A little bit of downside in terms of the swing and miss, rocking a 33.5 K percentage in high A as a 22-year-old this year, but also 14 home runs and 34 RBIs, as well as 3 steals, just to throw them in there, and a 14.3 walk percentage as well. Um, Good for a 274, 401, 637 slash line for him. He is 22 years old, just turned 22 years old a few days ago. And overall, he's someone that I like the upside of. He plays third base at the moment, probably going to be more of a first baseman in the long run. Um, and of course, this is assuming that we're not getting Ralphie Vasquez. So I like the move. I think he's got good pop. A little bit of a contact downside, but if we're talking about like a Jaron Duran to the Brewers, who I'm sure will turn him into a great player, I don't think that's a terrible price to pay. A top 10 organizational prospect plus a good rotation arm or a good bullpen arm in a position where they have an excess amount of talent. So, Max, what do you think of that one as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think definitely the excess talent. I think the Red Sox are looking for. I think if the Red Sox are going to be trading for Duran and most of these hitters that you're suggesting, the return shouldn't necessarily always be hitters. It has to be decent and well developed pitchers. So I do think they absolutely need that, not just in the starting rotation role down the line, but specifically for the bullpen, obviously, as we discussed about 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago or so when we were both raging at Greg Weiser. We do, you guys, rather, you guys do need the bullpen help, all you can get. So I agree with that 100%.
Moving on to my last Jaron Duran trade. This is one is with the Tampa Bay Rays. I have them trading Jaron Duran for Ian Seymour and Xavier Isaac. Now, start with Ian Seymour. This is another sort of middle to back end of the bullpen type of player. Um, I think this is someone that I can really see doing a myriad of different roles. Which is something that we really need out of our pen. Someone that can maybe close out the odd game if Chapman is on low rest. He can be a seventh, eighth inning guy if need be. He can also come in and give you a couple innings if the starter is just not feeling it, right? This is a guy who's thrown 28 innings, has about a 10 K per nine, shade under 1 in terms of the home run per 9, ERA of 4.5, not great, but his FIP is at 3.43, which is pretty solid. Last year was his first MLB season, 57 innings, over a 10K per 9, a 3.63 ERA, and a 3.19 FIP. I think that's, he's 27 years old, not too long, 27. I think he's a solid kind of lefty arm that we could use in the back end of our bullpen. We don't really have a lot of solid, proven lefties coming out of our pen, so I think that would be a solid move. The real piece here would be Xavier Isaac. Now, this is another first base type player. One that I quite like as, he's the fourth rated Rays prospect. They don't have an unbelievable farm system right now, but that's fair enough. Thing about like I like about Isaac is he just smashes. He's got tons and tons of raw power, and the real question is, can he make enough contact? Right? We're not going to get like an extremely polished top end talent for Jaron Duran at this point in terms of his value proposition. This is a guy who's rocking a 34.8 K percentage in 161 plate appearances at the AA level this year. But he's only at the age of 22. He also has a 22.4 base on balls percentage, which is elite, right? This is sort of a Munetaka Murakami profile we're talking about. He's already hit 12 homers with 26 RBIs and also 9 steals, so he's not a slouch on the base paths either. Um, a 258, 429, 597 slash line. This guy has hit homers at every single level he's at. And if he can keep that K percentage around 30 in the major league level and walk at about a 10-12% clip and give you 25-30 home runs a year, I'd be more than happy with that. That's sort of his upside. But he's a guy that I like a lot. And I think those are some pretty solid trades, Max. What do you think about that trade in particular and those sets of trades overall?
I like him. I like him a lot. I think you kind of don't want to have a situation in which you trade for kind of like a defining role. And the highs and lows of Jaron Duran, he clearly is a high profile player for the Red Sox. So you can't have a situation where you trade guys who don't pan out. I think the last few trades that we've seen with the Red Sox, you know their names. The last few couple trades with the Red Sox, some of the returns
Mm-hmm.
either weren't so great, not in the league anymore, or are great but just somewhere else. You cannot have that situation. I think if these trades, if the Sox stick with it and they actually grow to its potential, I think they could see some big ramifications with the Sox. I think 4 or 5 years down the line. I don't think immediately, but I think especially that time frame, if the Red Sox are going to be, I wouldn't necessarily say tanking, but specifically just focusing more on their farm system and their development as
This
opposed
is
to the
a
win now
reshuffling
mentality.
of the deck. That's sort of how I look at it, right?
Yeah, yeah, I would say that
We're
too.
looking at like an early 20s type of prospect instead of like a teenager playing in the A's, either rookie ball or
Or
college
a Jet
ball.
Blue and rookie ball.
Yeah,
Oh,
oh,
I almost lost power.
there you go. We're looking at guys who, you know, either have MLB experience already or have experience cutting their teeth at the high ends of the minors, right? Guys that we could probably expect to see with the team in in 2027, if not later this year, if things go
Mhm.
well. So I think the more the more considerable power bats that we can get, the better. Considering we just don't really have any, right? Um, but speaking of power bats, I want to move on to a couple of Wilson Contreras trades. Um, the two teams that I have for trading for Wilson Contreras are the San Diego Padres, who have just had absolutely abysmal first base output this year, and they're a team that's sort of sniffing around the playoffs and probably want a big bat there. And we have the Milwaukee Brewers again. Now, bear in
There's
mind
a
between
trend with Milwaukee. You
well,
real. I think you just want Kyle Harrison back. I
well,
think that's what this is.
we'll get there. But these are teams that I think have significant needs at these positions, but they are also very good teams. Um, right now the Brewers have Jake Bowers, who's sort of platooning with Andrew Vaughn there, and they're both pretty solid. Although I wouldn't say that they're particularly like World Series caliber options in that position. And also he'd be reuniting with his brother, which I think would be nice.
Mm.
Um, but so Max, which trade do you want? Because one of them is pretty wacky, and the other one's fairly straightforward.
Mm. I think the Padres make the most sense, not necessarily because of the first
Mm,
base depth, because I think because the Padres I think are still in that
yeah.
we want to be
And also
there.
AJ
We want
Preller, right? It's AJ Preller
yeah,
could do anything.
but my point about that is just specifically I think the Padres clearly want to be the LA Dodgers. I think as a lot of teams do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this especially, I think right now, I think the current ownership group that we see, I think are still going to be in that mentality, not just to compete in the West, but specifically to be the next Dodgers, really.
Yeah.
They've been doing that since I think 2020, 21 at this point. Um, and they've had some success, but obviously they haven't gotten the title yet, and that's sort of window that they're in.
Yeah.
And I think Contreras is. I think that offense is needed more for San Diego than Milwaukee because Milwaukee's got great offense, but I also think that San Diego does need the offense because yes, you have Gavin Sheets, yes, you have other players, but if Machado and Tatis and Jackson Merrill are going to continue to perform like they do the rest of the year, they need a bat like Wilson Contreras. So I think it makes the most sense for Contreras to go to San Diego.
Okay. I guess I'll just start off with the Brewers one right now, just because that one's more straightforward. And like you said, I think the Padres one's gonna be more entertaining, just because it's AJ Preller, and just because I think they're in desperate need of these positions. So,
They need
uh,
offense. They need offense
I'll
bad.
start out with the Brewers trade. I have Wilson Contreras going to the Brewers for Jefferson Caro and Craig Yoho. Now, Jefferson Caro, he is a 23-year-old catching prospect. He has been as high as 79th overall in the overall prospect rankings, fifth in the system. He's got great bat speed. He's got good arm strength. A little bit of volatility when it comes to his approach, but he would at the very least be an upgrade on Narvaez in terms of our catching prospects. And I think he would swing the bat better than Narvaez ever can. He can at least deputize with him for a bit. Connor Wong can get jettisoned for all I care, and Mickey Gasper can be our new DH or first baseman wherever he needs to be. Um, this year, 180 plate appearances, 6 homers, 32 RBI, 2 stolen bases, 22.2 K, 10% walk, 253, 335, 416 slash line. Not the greatest showing in the world, but he's shown some plus seasons in the past as a catcher. And like I said, he's got a decent enough upside with his arm to stick at catcher, at least in the medium term. I think catcher is a sneaky position that we need to upgrade. I think everybody's focused on the corners right now, but we do really need a sort of non minus in the catcher position. And I understand that having offense at the catcher position is a premium, but it is by no means unheard of.
Well, I still believe in Narvaez though. Um, but yeah, I think an upgrade, at least as a backup catcher, is needed. Maybe even to compete with Narvaez a little bit because Narvaez originally was not intended to be the starting catcher for the Red Sox. Please correct me if I'm
Precisely,
wrong when
precisely.
they traded him. But and
At
then it
least,
turned
at
out
least
great.
this is a guy that has a chance to have an OPS in the 700s. And
Yeah,
that's something, right? That it
yeah,
can't be discounted here.
yeah.
Craig Yoho, the other guy, um, he's been in the top 30 for the Brewers before. Basically, a purely relief pitcher type of guy. Has a 70 grade changeup, which is sort of like the Devin Williams model of relief pitcher. I'm not saying he's anywhere near as good, but he's striking out 10 per 9 in 15 innings pitched in the Brewers AAA system at the moment. Has a 1.2 ERA. Hasn't had an ERA above 1.26 except for his very first season in the minors and when he made his major league debut. So this is clearly a very talented bullpen guy that just cannot break through into this loaded Brewers pitching staff. I think this is a great like buy low kind of candidate that would have a new lease on life at Fenway Park and could potentially end up being our closer long term if everything goes well. Which I think would be two very solid pieces for Wilson Contreras, considering he's got a year and a half left of fairly affordable uh, money and would instantly upgrade a position that the Brewers desperately need to upgrade.
Well, I mean, Contreras is only on a 1 year deal, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, he has a club option for next year as well.
He ain't coming back next year. I think we all know that. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, I think
a
it's
club
interesting.
option, and I'm sure the Brewers want
I
more than
still
that too.
stand
So,
by my Padres take. I get that the Brewers one is more straightforward, but I feel like
well,
I feel like it's more in San Diego's MO to really want to go for
this
Contreras.
is why I saved them for last, Max, because I agree with you. But with how AJ Preller has left their farm system after the Mason Miller trade last year,
Hmm.
they really need to get creative with this. And this is why I've made this a 3-team trade.
Mm.
And AJ Preller is he's no stranger to a 3-team trade. I have going to the San Diego Padres, Wilson Contreras, and Masataka Yoshida. Now, 50% of his salary will be retained by the Red
That
Sox
strikes
in
me
order to
as
make
a
this.
kind of a Josh Beckett, and Adrian
Well,
Gonzalez thing. The true two
I
guys
would
going
say
away.
this. I would say this. The Padres are hurting for left field production, and they have been for years. Yoshida has at least proven to be a solid MLB batter, right? With
Hmm.
some batting average upside there, which I think would be more than enough to persuade the Padres to take on 50% of his remaining salary and give up a fairly minimal return for Wilson Contreras in agreement. The third team that I have involved in this is the Athletics.
Mm.
And I have going to the Athletics Cruz Schoolcraft, who is the fourth ranked prospect in the Padres system. They drafted him fairly highly last year. High school pitching prospect with some volatility, but it's something that the A's need more than anything is young pitching that they can sort of develop into possible front end of the rotation arms, which is something that he certainly is capable of. But I also have going to the Athletics in order to help them in the short term in terms of just how bad the back end of their rotation is at this time. Brian Bayo with 50% of the salary being retained by the Red Sox. Now this is more or less a salary relief trade for the Red Sox at this point, right? So,
You don't want to pay that luxury tax, don't you?
well, I think this is just a realistic trade in terms of the Red Sox. I could see the Red Sox doing this to offload some of Bayo and Yoshida's contracts, and
Hmm.
in order to sort of reconfigure their payroll in the offseason. I have the return for the Red Sox being Jeremiah Estrada. This is a guy who's got a great fastball shape and elite extension. He's the setup man for the Padres at the moment, but they have a bullpen so deep, I don't think they would miss him all that much. And I think this guy would end up being the Red Sox closer, especially if they traded Chapman. I like him a lot. He's 27 years old with a few years left on his contract. So I would be more than happy to take Jeremiah Estrada. I also have them getting Zach Geloff from the A's. Now, he's had a little bit of a resurgence this year. He's
Mhm.
not doing amazingly by any stretch, but he'd certainly be an upgrade at the second base position and moving Mayer over to shortstop. He can also play third base, um, where we have Sogard and Durbin, of course. So that's someone. This is someone who's got good power, speed, upside. Plug him into sixth, seventh hole, and he could be a solid contributor for you, especially at the age of 26. Pulls the ball at a pretty high rate with good bat speed. We need more of that in our lineup, right? Guys that just pull the ball with good bat speed. We just simply do not have anywhere near enough of those guys. So, Max, what do you think of the three-team trade that I cooked up there?
I like it especially with Estrada because I think the Sox would love anybody like Estrada in that bullpen. Um, Estrada's already, I think, one of the better relievers in the game of baseball right now. Who's been talked about a great deal, like on MLB Network and other channels. But I think if the Red Sox were to get someone like Estrada, man, that bullpen's going to be singing. We're going to be happy. People are looking forward to be like, okay, well, at least it was totally great job pitching six strong innings. Thank God we have Estrada coming in and not somebody else. So I think the big takeaway for me is Estrada. I think that'd be really clutch if the Red Sox were to get him.
Yeah, and if you're the A's, really the only thing that you're giving up in this trade is Zach Geloff, and probably helping the Red Sox out with a little bit of the money as well. And maybe the Padres with a little bit of the money. You're just sort of there as a make weight, right, based on what your payroll is, and getting Brian Bayo for a discounted price. Just plug him in at your five role and see if you can unlock some of his potential from last year. And you get a top prospect from last year's draft in there. And I say why wouldn't they want to do that, right? So um, next player I have is Sonny Gray. I'm going to try to pick this up a little bit, give you some quick rundowns here. Sonny Gray is not a guy who has like an especially long time left on his contract, so these are
He's
guys that I
Unk.
think are more immediate teams that need pitching that could potentially be World Series contenders here.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, Sonny Gray. I mean, he's kind of like balding right now. I don't know if you saw that, but
yeah, I saw that.
the Red Sox can't have a balding. No offense, but they can't have a balding pitcher
Considering
on
how
their
young
team right now.
our rotation is otherwise, yeah, I'd say so. I have a couple of NL Central teams here. I
All
have the
right.
Cincinnati Reds and I have the Chicago Cubs. Cincinnati Reds, I have Sonny Gray going to the Reds for Matt McLain and Zach Maxwell. Now,
Mm,
McLain, he's someone who's really struggled to stay healthy and build off of his rookie campaign where he looked like a very elite player. Um, just hasn't happened for him in Cincinnati for whatever reason. But he's a guy that still
yeah.
pulls the ball a great deal. He's got some power upside. He's got some speed upside. He's got a sharp glove. Um, I think if you're the Reds, you have better options in house. You have Noel V. Marte, you have Edwin Arroyo, you have Hector Rodriguez. You have guys that are in the minors right now that could do a better job than McLean's doing right now. And I think at a
Hmm.
certain point, you just say, this is a guy that we can move on from and bring in a quality MLB ready guy who's pitched here before, right? He pitched very well
Yeah.
for Cincinnati in the very recent past. Zach Maxwell, another guy that hasn't quite been able to break into that Reds bullpen. I'm not really sure why. He's got really good stuff. He's got the making of a solid back end of the bullpen guy. I like the buy low on these. Both these guys are in the younger phases of their 20s. I think this fits the timeline for the Red Sox. I think these are addressing needs from a point where we're not exactly selling off the team, right? This isn't necessarily a premium chip, but it's a very solid, competent big leaguer. Um, for the trade for the Cubs, this is a straight one for one. This is the second one that I did here. Sonny Gray for Pedro Ramirez. Now, Pedro Ramirez,
Hmm.
second slash third baseman, been lighting it up in AAA this year. One of the better performers in AAA this year. He's only 22 years old. He's made his debut for the Cubs recently. There's not really any room for him. Um,
Yeah.
you have Matt Shaw, and you have Moises Ballesteros, and you have Nico Horner, who might be gone after this year, but I think he might have signed a new contract fairly recently, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I heard rumblings about that, but I digress. I think the Cubs would be wise to keep him anyway, and this sort of leaves him out in the cold. So that's sort of where I'm at with that. What do you think of those two trades, Max?
I like the Reds one specifically because the Reds have a wide, array of talent on their team. I think the McClay one I think could work out. Obviously, there's some
I think
players
his
who,
swing would be excellent with the Green Monster, honestly.
yeah, no, I agree. I think there's some. I mean, we see a lot of players who they go from one place to the other, or they start out in one place and it's just not working well. But as soon as they go to like a different ballpark and a different atmosphere, and quite frankly, a different market and different expectations. I think that helps them out a lot. So I specifically like that McLean one a lot. That one stands out to me.
Yeah. Um, Last player I have, Aroldis Chapman. Now this is a
He's going
tricky
back
one.
to New York.
Well, this is a. I don't think we trade with the Yankees, not this level at least. Um,
You never know.
this is a premium closer, really only for teams that I think are kind of like right there in terms of like we just need a lockdown closer and maybe buy a couple more guys, and we could be right there in the conversation, right? So the two teams that I have are the Arizona Diamondbacks, currently occupying second in the NL West, 6 games over 500, very solid team, and the Cincinnati Reds, who
There's a trend I think with some of these trades with the NL Central. There's something about the NL Central,
oh,
and I get it.
they have the ability to make these trades, and I think it's just anybody's game in the NL Central right now. So I can see
Yeah,
a few of these teams pushing their chips into the middle of the table.
yeah.
Um, this is a based on where closers have gone recently. This could be a trajectory altering trade for the Red Sox if handled properly. Now this is a guy that only has half a
Hmm.
year left on his contract, granted,
Yeah.
but he's an upper level talent. This is one of the best closers in the game, probably in the top three beside like Mason Miller and um. God, I'm blanking right now. Um, Someone else,
Yeah.
Um,
David Bednar.
sure, David Bednar. I was gonna say Andres Munoz, but he's not having an amazing
He
year.
started off good. Now David Bednar. I don't know what happened, but yeah.
Anywho, um, the trade with the Diamondbacks, I think they have a very deep farm system right now. I have them trading Demetrio Crisantes and Lou James Groover. Now this is a pair of third base slash second base prospects, both with good bat to ball skills. Um, Guys that I think have higher floors, possess good speed, decent glove. I think could fill the role and probably be what they got. One of these guys could probably be what they thought Caleb Durbin could be. I think these are both. Um, at least one of these guys, Groover, is a top 100 prospect, and both of these guys I think represent a solid investment in the Red Sox future in terms of controllability and young players. The Reds trade. I have Edwin Arroyo and Hector Rodriguez, pair of AAA bats right now who are really looking like they should have made their debuts so far, but for whatever reason they're being blocked in Cincinnati. And with Sal Stewart, Ellie De La Cruz, Chase Burns, Nick Lodolo is back. I don't see any reason why this Reds team shouldn't be making a move right now and trying to capture some magic and finding how far they can go into the postseason. So yeah, those are the trades that I have here. Um, yeah, go ahead, Max.
I don't want the Diamondbacks one.
Okay,
I
why
I
not?
don't want to face Chapman in the wild card. I do not want to face Arizona, period, ever again.
That's a fair point.
And that's why that's why Cincinnati, good for you. Nothing against the Diamondbacks, honestly. It's just I can't move on. I cannot move on.
Yeah. Um.
We had another reliever who was similar to Greg Weiser in that series, and well, we all know.
Yes, exactly. We both know who that man is, but
Yeah,
that's really all I have at the
he's
moment,
still kicking.
Max.
I'm shocked he's still in the league.
Yeah, well, the Tampa Bay Rays have given him a new lease on life, so he's probably gonna be throwing 100 again and closing games out by the end of the year. But yeah,
Anyways, there goes my
anything,
that's my depression.
yeah, anything more that you would like to add, Max, before we wrap up?
Yeah, who are the Sox? Who's the Sox next series? They're going to Cleveland, right?
Going to Cleveland, yeah.
Okay. And who's after that?
That's a very good question. After that,
While we're on that, go to the Red Sox one. Can you take a look at who the Phillies have? Because I think they got another like long West Coast
sure
trip.
thing. Red Sox have the Guardians for 3, and then they have the Orioles at home.
Mm,
And from today's date, the Phillies have the Dodgers for 3 coming up. Ooh, in Los Angeles.
that's gonna be
Then
tough.
they have the Padres for 3 in Philadelphia. This
Mhm.
is the gauntlet, Max. But
Yeah.
if you wanna be the best, you got to beat the best. So
Well, so far, we started off fantastic in that three-game series. And LA is going to be tough, to be honest with you. That's going to be really tough. Um, I will say this though, and I'll finish this episode off with a little rant. I do not like that I have to watch the Phillies game on Apple TV. I already have Nessun. I already have LB TV. I have Peacock for Sunday Night Baseball, and I have to have this. I mean, thankfully, I have Big Inning, but like, if I just want to watch the Phillies game, I don't want to get Apple TV for it. That's just me.
yeah. Well, you can always listen to it on the radio.
Yeah, I could. Actually, when Apple TV was coming out, I think they still have this option. I know MLB TV has it, but what's cool about Apple TV though is no disrespect to the broadcasters there, but I think, when people are watching the games, they want to hear their own play-by-play guys do it. But what's cool about Apple TV, and as I said, I think MLB TV does it, but you can actually change who you're listening to
Mm-hmm.
like on the broadcast. So as opposed to listening to the main broadcast of Apple TV, there's times when I had a Apple TV a few years ago, maybe 3, 4 years ago, where as opposed to doing the regular broadcast, I would just select the option like, yep, I still want to watch the game, but let's listen to the Phillies radio on it. That's really neat. And I like that a lot.
I love the two Wills in the WEEI booth. Um,
Yeah.
they
Like
make
Scott
these games
Franceschi is
bearable.
really good for Philly, but I think what you guys got in WEI is obviously no Joe Castiglione or Castigliano. I always pronounce his name.
Castiglione.
Kikilia. Yeah, I always mispronounce his name. But obviously he's retired now. He does come back, but obviously he's retired now. But I think Will Fleming's done a fantastic job in
Oh
the
yeah, he's
booth.
great. I love Will Fleming. I think
Yeah,
if he keeps on for as long as Joe did,
I prefer him over OB, and I don't mind OB at all, to be honest. But I think Will Fleming is much better.
I have beef with OB.
Oh, let's hear the beef. Let's end it
He
with some
calls
beef.
so many of these games like he's broadcasting some ACC tournament kind of thing. Like he's trying to be neutral, and I've seen him show no emotion for a Red Sox home run, and then the very next inning he's screaming like Will Fleming for a fucking Ronald Acuna homer or whatever. It's like, dude, you hate your own team. I just don't understand why he can't show any excitement in his calls. Like he is the definition of like a 6 out of 10 in terms of being the play by play guy. Because it's just like
Um, Frank,
coming. What?
Francis.
What?
It's been 16 years, 15 years. You got to move on from Don
It
Orsello,
has
man.
not
You
been
have to
15
move on.
years. It's not been 15 years.
When did he leave? 2012, 2013?
Something like that.
Oh, it's been a long time.
It's been a while, but it hasn't been that long.
Feels like it.
I miss look. I miss the guy, but even if we're talking about like the standards that Orsello held himself to, Obi is just not meeting even half of that. That's the thing.
At least he isn't that entitled prick in Michael K on the Yes Network.
Oh well, that goes without saying. He's the absolute worst. Like that guy can just kick rocks for all I care.
Yeah. My
Anyway,
favorite one as a kid, I mean, obviously Vince Scully. I loved Hawk Harrelson with the White
oh
Sox.
yeah,
I don't know if the viewers remember this, but Hawk Harrelson, when I think when I forget who it was. I think it was like Gordon. No, not Gordon. Is that his name? Gordon Beckham? When he was on second base for the White Sox. I don't know if you remember this play where the White Sox almost gotten out. Beckham is running. He goes across the mound from deep second base, trips, tries to catch the ball, and he doesn't. And Hawk Harrelson, like for 1 minute, was just like, no, no. And that was it.
that,
He actually got in trouble with
that's
like
who
the
I
MLB
want in my
umpires, like with
booth.
Joe
That's who I want in
West.
my
Like he got
booth.
in trouble for
All
that.
right,
That's what you want. Obi is
I
like,
want a
oh,
guy who's
Wilson
a fan of
Contreras
our
hits
team.
a deep fly ball, and that's a 1-0 Sox game. Ronald Acuna Jr. Oh my goodness! It's kind of a weird contrast, is it not?
Yeah, like Will
Anyways,
Fleming he's a guy that I can tell loves watching this team. Right? Maybe not this particular
love is a
team,
strong word.
but he wants this team to succeed. He's a Red Sox
Yeah.
fan first at heart, right? And
Oh
he
yeah.
feels the frustration of the fans, and he's diplomatic to the degree that he can be, but you can tell he feels the emotions and he knows when the product is unacceptable. And that's all we want out of our announcers, right? Guys
Yeah.
who call it as they see it and are not afraid to toe the company line.
One last thing. One last thing. No one in baseball does it like McCarthy and Kruk.
Oh, I agree. I listen to their broadcast every time.
They are the
I had the Sophie's Choice of broadcasters the other night when I was watching the Padres Phillies, and I was like, Dawn, Crook. That's such a difficult choice, but
yeah.
in the end, I went with Crucky because
Yeah.
he's just so much fun. But anyway,
Anyways.
anything else to add, Max, or are you all set?
No, I think I'm done. I think my rants have been,
All right.
well addressed.
Yet another successful episode of Baseball FM where I get to air my grievances to the public, and Max gets to laugh in my face for having the superior ball team. What else you
We
do?
talk a lot about the Red Sox, but let's not forget this is also for my fellow Philly fans. This is also a time to talk about how great the Phillies are, and in some areas where we can see some improvements. We have I mean, it's funny because before like we were in a similar situation with Cora and Thompson. It wasn't that long ago when we were both kind of feeling it when we were both like dead last in the league.
Mm-hmm.
One team elevated and the other team is,
Detonated.
well, there will be better days ahead.
Yeah, well, maybe not for me,
You
but
got to end on a positive. End it on a positive for once, man.
well,
Come
let's say
on.
Don Rafaela. There we go.
All right, that's how we do it.
All right, all right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you for the next one.